Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by the Exit Room of Lee Summit. It's always a pleasure and a treat for me, and I know for you, if you listen each and every other Wednesday to Tim Finn's visit here on Danny Clinkscale's Reasonably Irreverent podcast and our music segment every other week. But there are treats galore this time around. We take everything from Ken Burns' new country music documentary to the passing of Ric Ocasek, Carrie, Underwood, a whole bunch of different things, and always what's going on in the Kansas City music scene over the next week or so. Some heads up, some hints on fun things you can do and make your musical experience even that much better over the next week or so. We get to cover a lot of ground with Tim each and every time. We take off on little tangents because we enjoy talking about music so much, and it's always a pleasure for me. And here we go again. Looking forward to it. Tim Finn and I talking music all over the map. Coming up next. Looking for a truly unique escape from your normal entertainment or corporate team-building regimen? Stay tuned for an exclusive offer only for Reasonably Irreverent listeners. I'm excited to tell you about an extraordinary destination, the Exit Room, located in the heart of beautiful downtown Lee Summit. The Exit Room is a distinctive entertainment option that offers a cool alternative to the normal couples night out, family get-togethers, and corporate team-building events. The Exit Room is a one-of-a-kind boutique escape room catering to special occasions and corporate team-building events and is unmatched in the Kansas City metro. With 5 individually designed and varied escape room adventures, your party or employees can unplug from their electronic world, interact with one another, match wits, and ultimately escape the humdrum of the ordinary. The Exit Room adventures cross decades and centuries and create fascinating fun. I know the owners well. They are local folks, their staff is warm and friendly, their lobby is inviting and beautiful, and their adventures are award-winning. Check online. There are over 1,000 reviews, and note that they are a rare 5-star ranked business. Visit their website and Facebook page, and any of my listeners who books online at theexitroomkc.com using the promo code Clinkscale19 gets 10% off any ticket purchase. The Exit Room in Lee Summit. Unplug, interact, and escape.
Before you spend your time and money going after an MBA, ask yourself why. Is it so you can tell people you got your MBA? So you can add a line to your CV? So you can call it a CV instead of a resume? Truth is, any MBA will do that. On the other hand, if your goal is to learn how to successfully manage and grow a business with real-world insights from experienced professionals, well, consider getting your MBA from Park University. Our low student-to-teacher ratio gives you personalized attention. And our face-to-face and online classes offered in 8-week terms are designed with working professionals like you in mind. No wonder the Kansas City Business Journal ranks Park University as the top MBA program in the area. Classes begin June 10th at all 4 KC area locations: Parkville, Downtown, Independence, and Lenexa. Visit park.edu to get started.
Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256. Tim, as usual, we have all kinds of different things to talk about, but one thing that resonates right now, and maybe if people haven't picked up on it and have streaming services and other ways to do it, or can just catch up, because I'm sure there'll be a fundraiser sometime for PBS where they'll do it. Ken Burns, in the last week or so, has rolled out his latest documentary, which is country music, plain and simple, that's what it's called. 8 episodes. I've seen all but 1 so far. It's not quite done yet, even. And I know you've been watching it, too. It is the standard Ken Burns documentary style, which is just fine by me. Peter Coyote has his own unique way of narration that fits, I think, Ken Burns. It's the same style with the interviews. And so there's nothing new and earth-shattering or different about Ken Burns. He has his go-to style. It's great. Why switch? And it really is a revealing and wonderful look at country music, and you don't even have to like traditional country music. I don't think. You just have to like music, period, to enjoy it.
Well, yeah, there's a lot to unpack with this documentary, because he's taken some hits from people. I know the baseball documentary series, there were people like Keith Olbermann who had a lot of issues with it, what was omitted, and his take on it. The jazz series he did, likewise. So I was wondering how some of the country music historians would look at this and how they would respond to it. And I know some guys who have written books. I've got a friend, David Cantwell, who has written books about country music and writes for the New Yorker, and has written a book about Merle Haggard. But anyway, generally the response has been really good. I mean, you cannot cover something that vast,
right,
comprehensively, and no matter how many hours you do. I think this is 14 or 15 hours,
right?
But I think he is so far. I've only watched like 4 or 5 episodes. I'm kind of savoring it because I want to watch one, think about it the next day, and then go back and go on with the next one. But what I like about it is he has really covered the beginning, the roots, like where all this started. And like we were talking before, like so much music in our culture, it all started with slavery and people who were abducted and brought over here and had to express themselves musically and
while away torturous hours too.
Right, exactly. And the other thing it does for me is there's so much wrong with contemporary country music right now. Like we will talk about Carrie Underwood, who's a country artist, but not in the slightest, really.
Right.
But so where country music has gone and where it was and where it came from, that's like one of the, I don't want to call it tragic, but it's disappointing, like, because they don't want to go back to it now. Like country radio, modern country, all their labels don't want to be that traditional. So, and this only reemphasized that for me. And I love that some of the footage, some of the photography is just so breathtaking. Like I was watching it with my wife, we would stop and just look at these pictures of whatever they were documenting,
Yeah, last night my wife and I were watching the 6th episode, I believe, and just on probably 5 occasions I turned and said, what a fantastic picture.
Right. And catching a time when, 1930s or before, and the way people dress, how despite living in, substandard conditions, the music made them happy or made them joyous, and just the love for people like Jimmy Rogers, and like when, they had an anniversary of his death celebration in his hometown with Meridian, Mississippi, I think.
Yes.
The people that turned out, not just the fans, but Bill Monroe, like every major country star showed up. And I didn't know that. I guess I hadn't ever read that or realized that. So the fact that those guys like and Hank Williams could become such superstars, considering it was just radio and local radio, right. That was really, it's kind of a marvel. And then, of course, Elvis sort of changed everything.
Right.
But that was a turning point for sure. But it, I guess it reminded me of stuff I already knew, or it exposed me to stuff I hadn't thought of or didn't know.
And the interviews are always so well done. And one of the keys to his documentaries is if 2 or 3 of the keynote people that he goes back to are riveting. Mm-hmm. And Marty Stewart couldn't be better in that role. I mean, we've talked about him before, what a wonderful guitar player he is, but just the way he tells a story, he's so articulate and in his own little his quiet way, but with his flamboyant appearance. That
you get used to his voice, so when he's talking but he's not on screen, it's him.
Right.
And he's very thoughtful. He's a historian.
He's an historian,
yes. Yeah. And he's also one of the best musicians, pick any genre, because he can play a mandolin like no one else, and guitar. His band, what is it? The something superlatives, the fabulous superlatives.
Yeah, if they come to the Folly again and you see that, folks, go see them. They're unbelievable.
Oh, I saw them with the Birds tribute to
yes,
Sweetheart on the Radio.
I didn't see that one. Yeah,
amazing. Just so, yeah, he's the guy who, I don't know, maybe he gets his own little spot in this documentary. He deserves it, but he's already got it anyway, just being an advocate for the history of the music.
Absolutely, and I highly recommended, folks. As you say, if you like music and you are like, I don't like country music, and and it also addresses just what you talked about. There have been other periods of time where the episode we just watched dealt with the fact that bluegrass music was almost completely marginalized by the country community. And it took sort of modern people in the last 15 years or so to bring it back and have festivals and bring it back to life a little bit. And the Nashville sound got kind of sweet. And so that was when Bakersfield came in and kind of got things back to its roots. But you sound pessimistic that this can happen in the current way that country is.
I think it's happening. I mean, like Old Crow Medicine Show is coming to town pretty soon, a couple weeks. They are all about that. He's, I think his name is Ketch. He's on there a couple times. He's the guy from Old Crow.
Right.
Bless them or blame them for the song Wagon Wheel that you hear. They took some Bob Dylan lyrics in a piece of a Bob Dylan song and wrote more lyrics with Dylan's permission, and it turned into this big single for them. And then Darius Rucker from Hootie and the Blowfish covered it and made country radio, and that song is like one of those songs on my list of it's been covered so much it annoys me every time I hear it. But so Old Crow Medicine Show is one. I mean, Alison Krauss, there are other bands that have revived that sound. It's not underground, but it's peripheral. It's not going to be on radio, but it's still there. It's easy to find. And go to Winfield, right about now. I think it's over, but it was last weekend.
And that provides a great segue into one of the concerts of the last couple of weeks that you reviewed it in Kansas City Magazine, where your work is, and a very wonderful publication and online product as well. And as you mentioned in the review, Carrie Underwood is a country artist. She's got 10 number one country hits, but in concert and on a stage, it's pretty much rock and roll.
Right. It's way closer to her band like Hearts. She had like 4 guitar players on stage once. There was a banjo here and there, and there's a fiddler was pretty active most of the show. But there was a sax player on one song. She did this one smoky bluesy number wearing a bowler hat, and it was very, like I said in the review, very cabaret. She's really entertaining, But there was virtually nothing country about it. Not my sense of country,
right?
And the lyrics are fine. You go to her website or her Wikipedia page, and like 7 people have contributed to each song. Who knows? Right. It's definitely music by committee. But to her credit, and I've seen her a lot, she always puts on a really dynamic, high-energy, entertaining show. She's got an amazing voice. Just one of those, like, I don't know if any... She covers like Guns N' Roses. I mean, she can hit all the notes that Axl cannot hit anymore, and big long notes. So that's entertaining. She's really warm and considerate. She's appealing by all dimensions. Just a really nice person. And she married a hockey player, which is bonus points for me.
Right, because it also. In my world of sports and covering sports my entire life, the hockey players are generally the most down-to-earth and regular folks. That,
Canadians.
And most of them are Canadians, and even the American hockey players have kind of been in the same type of world where, it's not the top rent sport, whatever. Mm-hmm. So it gives you an idea that she's kind of down-to-earth. We'll get into this with the Jonas Brothers a little bit, but what kind of a crowd does she draw? A big one, but what kind of a crowd?
It's... I guess it's a typical country superstar crowd. It's lots of couples. It's 98% white, maybe 99.
Right.
Suburban. And she writes songs that are built to be performed live and in arenas. And it's hard to not get swept up into it because... it's a formula, but it's successful. That's why she's like one of the very, very few women on the charts right now. The only one with a top 10 hit. And if you go down to like 25, there's maybe 2 others. Country music is dominated by men and some, ensembles that have women in them. But otherwise, it's a boys' club. And she's been able to, sustain her popularity and maintain a spot on radio, but it's, she's one of the rare, and I keep waiting for that to turn around, but I don't know. I don't see.
And and that's kind of highlighted in the country music documentary too. The hard fight for women, and the fact that many of them did succeed, but it took extremely hard work. You note that in your review, and it seems like it is a badge of honor for the women who have made it and still have a platform. Mm-hmm. Like she used, both of the openers were women's bands. And also some of her songs deal with things like abusive behavior and gun violence and things like that. So I think they feel the need to say, hey, we're here. We may not be here that many times on the charts, but we're here.
And I think that it's a matter of this country music or country radio programmers having faith that listeners will want to hear women. I mean, the Dixie Chicks was probably a pivotal moment, and more pivotal than I acknowledged when all that happened. So like Taylor Swift on her record put out a song, her new record put out a song, and the Dixie Chicks were backing vocalists, and it wasn't really broadcast that they were behind them playing their instruments and singing along, and some country stations played it, even though they don't play Taylor Swift a lot because she's on pop mostly. But if they're going to play Carrie Underwood, they might as well play Taylor Swift because I think Taylor's probably a little more country than It's not hard arena rock. Right. But and they got complaints. Like there are still listeners that resent what the Dixie Chicks did in 2003, and which really, if you put it into context of stuff that's been said about presidents since then, like, is that still an issue? So there's a battle there that I didn't think was going to last nearly this long, and it's apparently still being waged.
Well, and of course, you get to see her sing the football song every week, too. So let's talk a little bit about the Jonas Brothers. We've had a little recent run of boy bands coming to town. I don't know if the Jonas Brothers quite fit the boy band model.
No, they're not.
They're not really a boy band.
They are a band.
They're a band of
musicians.
Once boys, but musicians. And they just put out a new album. They featured it. I've read reviews of it that have been pretty, good praise for the style of music they play. You saw the show, a lot of screaming girls and young ladies at this show, but still good quality music.
Yes. So, two things. So, my younger daughter was there. She's 25. She was there with like 6 of her friends who were 24 to 25 or 23. Patrick Mahomes was there. He turned 24 with his girlfriend, who's probably the same age.
Right.
Because she was probably had the same perspective that my daughter did. I heard them when I was a teenager. I love their music. The new record is good. And it's not like New Kids or Backstreet Boys putting out a record. These guys write all their songs. Mm-hmm. They play instruments really well. They're trained musicians, and their music is sophisticated, and they're good live entertainers. I have a friend, Tyson, who's in a band called Pomeroy, a local band that a lot of people really love.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And he's in Nashville now as a working musician, but part of his work is working in cover bands or tribute bands. And he sent me a message after I posted my review and my response to the show, and he's like, he's been working on learning Nick Jonas, like, solo songs, and he's like, that guy is a really talented songwriter. Like, he's not just writing 3 chords, blah blah, 1, 3, 5 stuff. He's a decent songwriter. His stuff is tricky, and as a guitar player, he knows some tricks and techniques that. So, yeah, it's easy to look at them as just and loop them in with Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, but they're closer to Hanson. Like, those 3 kids are really, really good songwriters and musicians. I did a story about sound engineering in arenas, and as part of the story, I got to watch them sound check at the Uptown once, and they were just fooling around, covering like the OJs and Allman Brothers and like all this stuff, and they knew it, and they knew it well, and really impressive. But they're still, both of them, kind of branded by their earliest days, which is unfair. But I think these guys,
Mbop was a good song.
It was a great song. That album was good. No, they could write really good pop songs, and they were writing their songs, unlike the Backstreet Boys or even Taylor Swift, who gets the credit, but along with 8 other people who wrote the song.
Right. Let's take first time out here. We've got a lot still to talk about, and including a musical loss over the last couple of weeks since we last spoke with Tim Finn from In Kansas City Magazine. And, of course, you can also hear him with John Hodder on 90.9 The Bridge every Thursday at 4 o'clock. We love visiting with him every other Wednesday right here on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by the Exit Room of Lee Summit.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, you know, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
I was duped, and I recommend you be next. For better or worse, the ultra-realistic impression of me sits now in my wife's office to spook her on a daily basis. So what is Doob? D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creation. Visit their location down on the plaza in the heart of it at 231 West 47th Street in KC Mo. Doob, be next.
There's no need to get a case of the Mondays every week, not during football season anyway. Hey, this is Matt Llewellyn from the 23rd Street Brewery, and we are the place for Monday Night Football. Food and drink specials every week, and all new televisions always at 23rd Street Brewery. The hardest thing about Mondays now will be getting through the workday, although waking up on Tuesdays might be a little bit tough. But remember, watch all the Chiefs games, NFL games, every game at the 23rd Street Brewery.
Back with Tim Finn from In Kansas City Magazine, and you can read his work at that publication. He reviews major concerts in the area, gives you a heads up on what's coming up in the area over the next musical week. Always gives you a little heads up. We'll get to a couple of those coming up. But one thing I've always said, I'm a big fan of old movies. I'm a big fan of a lot of things old, older than I am, so don't make that joke. But when we were watching movies from the 30s and 40s, everybody's dead. But what any performer of any import, be it Ronald Colman, one of my favorite actors, or anybody else, is the fact that their work lives on. And Ric Ocasek, the leader and founder and primary songwriter of the Cars, died on Sunday, kind of unexpectedly. He'd been having cardiac problems. But his work will roll on, and I wrote a blog about it, which you can see at DannyKlinkscale.com from a couple, 3 blogs ago. You can find them all there. And the thing that inspired it was I heard a Cars song I hadn't heard for a while, actually the day before he died. And the Cars were a very unique band. They're tabbed new wave. I don't know. To me, they're sort of new wave / power pop / rock. I don't know.
Rockabilly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They have a mix that I think was, for calling it new wave, was pretty unique. He's an extremely talented man for songwriting. They had a unique sound. Both of the vocalists were a little offbeat sounding. I can't say enough about that. I love the Cars. They're one of my bands that have rotated in my desert island band thing. If we only had one band, just your thoughts.
Yeah, I remember when that first record came out. I was in college, and it was one of the few that you put it on. I think I'd heard, the first hit, which might have been "Best Friend's Girl,"
maybe, yeah.
Which reminded me of early '60s with a new wave to it, little Everly's. Like it was just so. But even that song, the lyrics are like, there have been other songs written about, I have a crush on my best friend's girlfriend, except with this one,
right?
She used to be mine. Like, so he had a crush on my girlfriend. Now he's dating her, and I miss her. And so even there was always that twist to their lyrics that were just a little dark.
Yeah, when I wrote
sad.
the review, I was doing some research, and I can't remember which critic it was, but described his lyrics as written by a hard-headed, cold-hearted person. And that darker twist gave such a different take to the music, which was great pop, bubbly fun, generally.
Mostly, but it had an edge to it. That,
yes.
So what I think about the Cars is I've seen, and there's probably some Cars tribute band out there, but never one in this town, because that would be a hard band sound to replicate, I would think. It's tricky. Like, I was listening to this song, Touch and Go, which starts off with this, like, really arrhythmic stuff, and it's kind of, it goes going back and forth. You can't really catch the rhythm. But then it goes into this beautiful chorus. Like, it's so typical, like, 4/4 time. And that's what he did. He surprised us so many times with his songwriting and the shifts and meter and bridges and pre-choruses and it seems so seamless and effortless, and those songs still last. I mean, they still sound so good.
I mean, the first two, I wrote about this, and I do raise eyebrows with the fact that they did have relevant albums after the first two, but you could live and die on the first two. That the eponymous record, and then Candy-O. I do like Candy-O better, and most people find that a little jarring. But it's just a little more raw. But you can't miss with the Cars too, because you just put it. I think you were about to say it. We didn't, but there's so many tracks to go down. You put it on and you didn't take it off.
No,
I mean it was like 10 songs. I think it was 9 actually. 9 songs. They were all great. I mean,
and none of them sounded like the others, which is another trick he was able to master. Is they were different enough that there were just a little, like, there were surprises in his songs, most of them, and I think I would say that he sustained that for at least 4 records.
Yeah.
Because I listened to some of the later ones, and they sort of tapped back into other stuff he'd written. They didn't sound redundant, but they sounded like, I've kind of heard this before, or they were a little too raw or elemental, like not as much adventure in them. But I think another more evidence of how significant he was, not just as a songwriter in the Cars as a band, but as a producer, was he produced a lot of really great records, and everyone who worked with him put out this really fawning, devotional testimony to him about what a great guy he was and how he made their records better. Bands that have played tribute to him live, the Red Hot Chili Peppers just played a song for him. I think there's a band that's about as far away from the Cars as you can get. It would be them. But so he was a guy. He was quiet. He was humble. Put out great records, and apparently was shy, because I've not heard good things about their live performances. And I think he just said, I don't like being out there, and I guess it showed. So maybe I'm not sad I didn't see them.
Right. I've heard that too. And in Twitter, blowback, not blowback. The people were nice about my blog, but they said, great music, great show, worst live show I ever saw. I must have got 3 or 4 of those. Right. And I always did hear that. Obviously I'm from Boston. I went home to Boston the summer that record came out, and I came back like an evangelist for the Cars, basically. And and also I wrote about this. He became basically the poster child for the homely rock and roller who got the girl because he married Paulina Poroskova, the 2-time Sports Illustrated cover model.
The tall, skinny nerd.
And they stayed married almost the rest of his life.
She was there, I think.
Yeah, she found him. Yes, she found him. So really, I don't even think a moment in time. That's before we leave this. That's what I would address if people maybe are younger and they they know the Cars. They heard their parents play it or something. I don't think the music is dated in any way.
No.
I mean, the guitar, Elliot Easton's just a bad man.
Some of the leads, he has some of the best guitar leads ever in my life. Like
Right.
I can name 5 of his guitar leads and they're all very different. So it's
Right.
so much creative energy in that band, and Ric Ocasek gave them the room to show off. You know?
The drummer is fabulous. I mean, it's just...
They're kind of like, to me, it's like they're the other band that I think people can't really mimic or copy is like Electric Light Orchestra in their heydays.
Right,
like,
right.
You recognize them right away, and no one was doing what they were doing or had done what they were doing, and since then, not really.
Right. There was, I mean, he clearly had a strong Beatles influence, but he turned it into his own thing. And probably one of the reasons it's difficult to replicate is he hardly ever played live.
Right.
Rick Lynn. So he's really a studio musician and perfectionist. There was quite a bit of
and
that.
And a good producer.
Quite a bit of that in the Cars too. Now Roy Thomas Baker did produce the first album, but Rick would produce the rest of them. And the first one was a little sweeter, and they purposely wanted to get away from that sound. The harmonies were taken out a little bit. So, well, we could wax on and on. We better move on and move into some other territory. A couple of the shows that are in the Can't Miss concerts, which is always a great treat each and every week, put out by Tim Finn at In Kansas City Magazine, and we get to go down the same 70s road here a little bit in a couple days at the Uptown. Toto will appear. And this will lead me down another slight diversion as well, because Toto has kind of gotten a little bit of a boost because Weezer did a cover of Africa. But I want to start there. I want to get your opinion. It was a note-for-note cover. It sounds like the original. I don't know what the point is. You know, I when I heard that it was out, and I said, "Oh, I got to hear this," and then I heard it. I'm like, well, it's just the song.
Right.
Why didn't they just re-release it? I mean, I admire that they had the chops to, cover it with a band that is a bunch of studio musicians. But just your thoughts on I guess, covers in a general take on
I think what
whether that one
happened
is too close to me.
They started playing it live because I noticed this before I heard them do that cover. Like I was in a bar near my house, and that song came on. Somebody put it on the jukebox, and the place was filled with, I would say the average age of the crowd was between 28 and 32. And the sing-along to that, it was my first notion that this song had become, like I say in my piece, it's like Journey's, Don't Stop Believing, or Bon Jovi's Living on a Prayer. I remember being at a show, I think we were at Fall Out Boy, and my kids were in like 6th or 7th grade, and they played Living on a Prayer, and they and all their friends were singing it. And I'm like, how do you know about this song? Like, oh, because we do. And that's kind of what Africa has become. So I think they recorded it because they saw like what was happening with it.
Right.
And then Toto started doing a cover of a Weezer song. I don't remember which one. So there was a back and forth. But yeah, it's really odd because like I know on 810 they will play that sometimes on Steven's show. And
right.
It's just a big deal. It's become one of those songs from the past that is just becomes one of everyone's favorite anthems. So
it's like a song that I don't even like very much. That
the lyrics are so weird.
Like "Come on, Eileen." I never figured that song would become something that people would sing along to 30 years later. It's a one-hit wonder for that matter. But
well, the thing is, it's a complicated song, and the lyrics are like I cited some of the ones about the Serengeti. Like who remembers those lyrics? Who even knows where those places are? Except they're in Africa. But yeah, so it has surmounted its difficulties as a song,
right?
But people love it, and they love the chorus. It's just a great chorus,
right?
And so yeah, I've not seen them live, and I may go to this show just to check that off my list. But they have other really good hits,
Yeah, right. "Hold the Line" is a very strong song.
Rosanna,
the first hit, the big anthem, rock anthem.
And all those guys were great studio musicians. The Porcaro brothers, 2 of them have died.
Right.
So the musicianship is good. And the last time they played, it was at Crossroads KC, and I know of at least like 10 musicians in town, some of them jazz musicians, who went to watch them because they are a really, really good performing band. So, I mean, it would be a matter of going there to see like 3 or 4 songs, and then the others are just like, but admiring the.
But probably well turned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, just to continue this theme, I can highly recommend for those who have Sirius, but But I don't have the tier that my wife does, which I'm really mad about because I'm supposed to be on the same plan. But anyway, she has, and we don't drive around I don't drive around in her car very often. But she has a channel that's just covers.
Oh yeah,
and it's really a cool channel. Mm-hmm. Now some of them are like, why? What's the point? Mm-hmm. But like, I should start making a list when I'm in the car when I hear one, but. One of the best things I've ever heard was the Isley Brothers covered Summer Breeze.
Oh, really?
And it is awesome. That's
a great song.
And now, Phil Isley is a fabulous guitarist, and the run-out to it is just like mind-blowingly good. But, that's just the type of thing you have on this channel that is unique. You're like, huh? And I wish I could remember a couple more examples, but there's some really neat twists and turns. So if you have the chance to visit that channel, it's really a cool thing.
My favorite cover record is called If I Were a Carpenter, and it came out in the early to mid-90s, and it's bands like Sonic Youth and Cracker, and not R.E.M., this band called Shonen Knife covering Carpenter songs.
Wow.
And it's amazing. Sonic Youth covers Superstar. I think I like it more than the Carpenter's version. Cracker does this really atonal, very almost narcotic, morphine-induced version of Rainy Days and Mondays.
Right.
And then Shonen Knife does Top of the World, super bouncy. They're a trio of women from Japan who are sort of a pop-punk band. Anyway.
You'd have to jazz that one up for me.
Mm-hmm. No, but they do. Right. And also, I love the Carpenters. She was an amazing, one of the best women vocalists.
Yeah, she was.
And a decent drummer, not a great drummer, but she was one of the first women drummers, I would guess.
Right.
And if you catch any documentary on them, it's really sad because she was so unsure of herself.
She was like the original person who maybe made anorexia a thing.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
That people knew about and heard about. So very interesting. Any of the other shows that you want to highlight before?
Well, if you want to go see a lot of local music for a low price, there's a festival going on in North Kansas City on Saturday, and it's called the North Kansas City Blues Festival. Radke's going to be there. They're one of my favorite they're from here, Afro punk band. 3 brothers from St. Joe. They live in Kansas City now. Who've been touring the world, but it's very high energy, poppy punk music. It kind of sounds like the Misfits, or if you know them. So they'll be there, but there's like
and it's at various venues too, and it looks like a good way to learn about downtown North Kansas City,
which I'm not familiar with. There's a bunch of
me neither.
Bunch of music rooms and microbreweries and tap houses there, and so there's like 36 bands in like 9 venues. So
and it's a $15 wristband to get you to everywhere.
Right, you can park. It starts at 2, it ends at midnight. Show up whenever you want. Park somewhere you can walk up and down. Every venue is close to each other, so I would recommend that. The North Kansas City Music Fest Saturday night.
Well, we kind of had a music fest of our own today. It's always fun, Tim, but it was maybe extra bit of fun this time around. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. See you next time.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like the Exit Room of Lee's Summit. Come with friends, family, colleagues, or a team to tackle the challenges of this unique escape room.